Well, winter happened, the holidays have come and gone, and while we had fun, we were going a little stir-crazy by the end of January. So we headed south looking for warm and preferably free boondocking spots. The lower you go, the warmer it is, so we looked at short-term desert sites at or near sea level. In the western U.S., that includes Death Valley, the Salton Sea area, and the lower Colorado River corridor from about Needles, California to Yuma, Arizona. We found perfect temperatures from the high 60s to the mid 70s, as expected for early February. This is our route and the 8 great short-term camping spots we found. This video will give you an idea of what to expect at each one of them. I usually show you a satellite view, the road into them, and views from our campsite. There are a lot of apps that help you find free dispersed or primitive campsites. I use iOverlander, The Dirt, and Campendium. Our criteria were free or cheap, low elevation desert locations with space for lots of rigs, so we don't need to worry about getting there and not finding a spot. We also preferred a good view and no neighbors within 100 or 200 yards, and finally a nice place to walk or hike or some other nearby activity or attraction. I've summarized the sites in this table. It's white so you can screen grab it and print it if you like. Now we'll look at each site and cover what you might want to know about each. We have a 4-wheel camper on an F-150, but all of these sites have roads and space suitable for 2-wheel drives, larger rigs, and trailers. On our route from a family visit in the Bay Area, we stopped 23 miles south of Barstow, California, at the Sawtooth Canyon BLM Campground. Still a little cool at this elevation on the last day of January. It was a good camp with scenery and hikes. Note there are several dispersed camping spots to the east across the highway from Sawtooth Canyon, about 0.4 to 0.9 miles from the highway. This campground has vault toilets, shade, fire pits, and grills. It's a climbing area and probably busy on the weekends, but only a few campers were there on a Monday night in February. The road was good, sites level, and there was some cellular. Several hikes start at the campground, and the crags make it a scenic location. There's also a Dino Bones playground for the kids. Our next stop was the California State OHV recreational area in the Anaz-Borrego Desert called Ocotillo Wells. It's on Highway 78, about 20 miles west of Highway 86 that runs along the Salton Sea. At about 180 feet elevation, we finally started to warm up. This area is huge, and you can camp almost anywhere, but there are multiple designated camping areas with shade ramadas, tables and fire pits, and vault toilets. And 2 areas have showers. These facilities were always pristine and well stocked, and we really liked this area. There are numerous geologic formations in the area, including a cool slot canyon hike, which we really enjoyed. We stayed one night at the Cove, which had a wind-sheltered spot and 8 or so ramadas with tables and fire pits and a vault toilet. We had to climb about 30 feet up the hill behind us to get cell signal at this location. After exploring the Anaz-Borrego Desert and Borrego Springs, we spent our second night along County Line Road. This was a non-designated spot by a bunch of rock fire rings with no tables or shade, but it was near a vault toilet. Had good cellular, good sky views, and it was near a hill for ATV and motorcycle recreation, but there was only one motorcycle for a brief period and nothing after dark. One note, many of the roads on the recreation area map are just broad washes in the desert, and we got a little nervous on them when they start to get wet. So make sure you don't travel beyond your skill in your vehicle and recovery equipment capabilities. Next, we started toward Yuma, Arizona, and spent the night at Ogilby Road, which is a huge area crossed by some desert washes and a popular BLM 14-day camping area. There are about 3 or 4 faint gravel paths going northeast from Ogilby Road, beginning about 19.7 miles south of Highway 78 and ending at the American Girl Mine Road. There are a lot of rigs here, but plenty of space to avoid any neighbors within about 100 or 200 yards. Not a lot to do except perhaps visit the sand dunes by the BLM Ogilby Campground that is west of here. There's some cellular, but no facilities of any kind. A few trains rumble by a mile or so away, and there is some highway noise, which you can reduce by going further from Ogilby Road. Good clearance may be necessary if you get off the gravel roads, if you want to call them that. The Kofa National Wildlife Refuge is one of our favorite places. Palm Canyon Road, which goes into the Kofa, heads west from US 95, about 20 miles south of Quartzsite. The first 5 miles cross BLM land, where you can camp anywhere away from the road. But when you enter the wildlife refuge, camping is limited to 100 feet from the road and is typically marked off by a line of small rocks and a sign. We like the Kofa Refuge because there are a lot of places to camp, and the vegetation and mountain views are spectacular if you like saguaro, cholla, and ocotillo. At the end of Palm Canyon Road is a nice hike into a small palm grove deep in the canyon. There's also a man-made spiral of rocks along the road that is interesting. Big River BLM area is another large BLM area along a single road that goes north off of Highway 62, about 4.6 miles from the Colorado River Bridge in Parker, Arizona. It's only about 660 feet in elevation and has room for at least 20 rigs. It has great views and good cellular. The road was really good until about 1.7 miles in, when you might need a little clearance. But there were a few spots past that with no one around. We had it to ourselves. Big River is a great stopover spot with lots of space and big skies. On our way back north, we wanted to drive through the Mohave Preserve, which is surprisingly high in elevation. So we looked for the lowest spot we could find. We took the Kelbacker Road north, then we turned west on the Dunes Road and went about 3.9 miles to the Kelso Dunes. This was one of the lowest spots in the preserve, and we found a primitive roadside camp with a fire ring near the Dunes trailhead. There's also a small primitive campground about a half mile further on that had nobody in it. You'll find great views of the dunes and surrounding mountains and nobody in the entire area after sunset. We did the hike from the trailhead up to the 600-foot tall sand dunes with beautiful views along the way. We went most of the way anyway, and it was well worth it. Our final camp on this winter warm-up loop was in Death Valley, one of our favorite places due to its warm days in winter, spring, and fall, its amazing scenery, hiking, history, and geology, and its abundance of free boondocking opportunities. Dispersed camping is allowed 1 mile from any developed area, paved road, or day-use only areas, with a few exceptions. You must park adjacent to the dirt or gravel road and use previously disturbed areas, not create new ones. The Visitor Center has a brochure that shows where you can camp. Free permits are required in specific areas, including our spot on this trip, the Hole in the Wall Road. You must get your permit at the Furnace Creek Visitor Center on the same day you want to camp. Here's a table of the designated roadside spots on this road based on Park Service info and my own shade observations. Might be important if it's a really hot day. Hole in the Wall Road is 1.9 miles southwest of Zabriskie Point on Highway 190. It goes west about 3.6 miles to the Hole in the Wall, which is just what it sounds like. The road is gravel, but pretty decent. We picked site H4, which is a smaller site up against a cliff on the north side of the road. If it was a hot summer day, the other sides on the south side with a little bit of shade might have been a little better, but it was not a problem in February. The site was level, there were no neighbors, and we were within 50 feet of the road, but there were only a few rigs all afternoon and none after sunset. There are many other free boondocking areas in Death Valley, so check out their backcountry access brochure, which I'll link in the description below. I may cover our favorites in a later video if viewers are interested. Please let me know. We really enjoyed every one of these sites, and we hope you will too. There are many other BLM dispersed areas and campgrounds, as well as state and county parks, and I hope you'll let us all know of any other gems that you like. Thanks so much for tuning in, and please let us know if you'd like to hear about other great boondocking spots.